Before we get started with our dissections, we need to make sure that we're safe. So make sure you have gloves, lab coats, and goggles. To start your dissection, get your pig and put it on your dissection surface. We removed most of the thoracic cavity, and now we're going to get into the abdominal cavity and look at the digestive system. The digestive system will start in the mouth, make its way through the esophagus, which remember last time we freed up. It's here. The esophagus will then pierce through the diaphragm and go into the stomach. So now the cuts that we're going to have to make in through the abdominal cavity will be a cut down from our original cut and around the umbilicus with two cuts coming down to the either side of the leg. So let's do that now. It's perfectly fine to cut that because then we can move that structure out of the way. You can see on the underside of this piece that we just cut out is going to be pieces of our urinary system, and we do not want to damage them. Now we're still connected at the diaphragm. So we're just going to take our scalpel and cut along that diaphragm. Now in order to get a better view of the internal structures, we'll make an additional cut around the legs so we can open up the abdominal wall. This large tissue right up front is the liver. This is what we're going to do, is move it slightly out of the way while we get the diaphragm. We're going to cut along the diaphragm. Now the diaphragm's out of our way. We can move this liver, which comes in lobes. Lobe here, lobe there. Push it up, and we should be able to see the stomach. There's the esophagus leading to the stomach. We have a little bit of connective tissue here. There's the esophagus leading all the way into the stomach. If we push the stomach to the side, on the lateral and slightly inferior side of the stomach, we will see the spleen, this structure here. If we were to cut some of this connective tissue, it's easy to peel the spleen away from the stomach without causing damage to either. There's the spleen. Now there's a very delicate organ underneath the stomach. So if we pull this membrane away, and we pull the intestines down a touch, once we get that membrane pierced, we can gently push it out of the way. Pancreas is this tissue here. You can see it's very delicate and easily damaged. the pancreas along with the gallbladder, which will be underneath the liver, will drain into the duodenum, which also drains the stomach. There we go. There's this little green structure here. Sometimes a little harder to see inside the liver. That little green structure there. That is the gallbladder. You can gently take a pick or a probe and just peel that one away. You can peel the gallbladder away from the liver without causing damage to it. There we are. Now, the gallbladder, now separated from the bulk of the liver, is still connected at the cystic duct to the liver, but that's okay. Now we can at least see the gallbladder and the pancreas, and that they will both connect right here at the duodenum. Quick fun fact with the stomach: you can feel the caloric sphincter at the base of the stomach coming off of the body, and it's a hard ball. That is a very tough sphincter. Compare that to the esophagus connection at the stomach. The cardioesophageal sphincter is a very weak sphincter. So now, moving from the stomach to the duodenum, which is this tiny little curved tissue, little curved tube right here, will then lead into the small intestine. The small intestine is all this structure there, and you can see that it is connected with this mesenteric artery. Sorry, mesenteric tissue fed by the mesenteric artery. We can pierce that connective tissue and they should free up the rest of the small intestine as you slowly and methodically cut through that mesentery piece by piece. And instead of having a bundled amount of small intestine, you'll then start to get the small intestine unraveled. This process can take a while if you're being careful. So now that small intestine is feeding into the large intestine at the ileocecal valve, into the cecum, and also coming off of the cecum is this structure right here, which is the appendix. The appendix feeds into the cecum into all the rest of the colon. We're not going to undo the colon because that's a really tight dissection there. Then that colon will feed down through the rectum here and then out through the anus. Now, you can put your pig away and clean up. This is a model of the dissection that we just did. We cut through the abdomen, opened up the abdominal wall, and we exposed all the gastrointestinal structures. We saw the liver, and by the way, the esophagus. We look under the liver, we'll see this little green structure. That is the gallbladder. Then the stomach with the spleen off to the side. And if you look under the stomach, we can see that pancreas. You can also see the esophagus entering into the fundus of the stomach, leading through the body, and the pylorus, which has the pyloric sphincter leading out to the duodenum. Then we had our intestines, the small intestines and the large, leading from the duodenum to the duodenum, to the ileum, which then came over to the cecum of the large intestine, and the appendix. The large intestine then leads out into the rectum. I hope that helped.